I've finished welding the sill in. It's done. It seems to fit well against the door, so I've got no problem there. What I'm now doing is just doing a final check on this repair section. There's a little bit of work to do around this edge as to how that's going to fit against the body. I've drilled the plug weld holes. They're all ready to go, including the ones in the flange. So I'm very close to welding this in. Now I'm finally ready to weld this patch in. It's taken me probably another 6 hours to fine-tune the fit. I probably didn't need to do that, but some bits just weren't quite fitting, and it was better to spend the extra time to end up with a more precise fit, so I've done that. What I'm now going to do is do it the way that was suggested by Chuck at Monocoque, and that is not to seam weld this because of the likelihood of distortion, but to gradually put some tacks in, maybe stitch it a little bit in places, certainly not a full seam, in particular stitching them around the tech screws there, and once they're all in place, then I can start removing the screws and plug weld there. Now the whole time I've got to be conscious of the heat, and so this is going to take quite some time, because what I'll be doing is cooling each weld as I do it, so I don't want any heat build up. The shape is right. It's a nice smooth curve around this way, and that way is fine. It will need some filler because all of this seam is not going to be filled with weld, but it will be strong, so that's the main thing, and it's holding its shape. Weld down in there are a few short seams, seam back from there, seam from there to there, and a few little stitches in the middle. This stage I'm going to lead that, and whilst I'm leading that, I might as well lead this as well. So just do the whole section there. But this I'm not going to lead unless I change my mind. This stage I'm probably going to deal with some form of filler. But anyway, the first thing is to get it welded. Now I've put the rear panel there just tacked up in place to make sure everything is right. That's still got to be finally fitted to the joint at the end. I haven't done that yet. But the aim at this stage is to get this in. It's been a long time coming. It's been one I've been very wary of tackling because of the position it's in. It's in the main area of curve on the body. So anyway, this is meant to work, so I'll just progressively go through and try not to be tempted to keep adding welds and building up the heat. I finished welding the repair section in, and I've started to clean up the welds. The job went quite well, even though it took quite some time because of the need to minimise the heat. Let's move this way. The amount of distortion that ended up in the panel is very minimal, so I'm quite pleased with that. But let's say it just takes a lot of time for what appears to be little effort, or sorry, little result, just to put one section in. But as I say, gone well. Now what I've done here is a little bit different from what I intended. Originally these were just tacked in, probably a little bit of a short weld on either end, and intermediate tack welds and then leaded. Now I've thought long and hard over that, and seeing I've spent some time pulling everything apart and seeing how the construction was put together, this is a B pillar, quite an important part of the structure of the car, joining into the inner and outer sill combination, which is a bit like a chassis beam going down the side of the car, which then links up with an A pillar, another structural piece joining onto it. And because of the design, I think it's better to have a complete weld there, just to finish it off properly. How much extra strength does it add? Don't know, but it would add some strength, and I think any strength on this part, the A and B pillars, is important to have. So anyway, I've stitch weld this. I intend to lead this, so I'll lead that. I'll be leading up in around here, mainly because it's the edge of the door. I may not go too far in, but I'll certainly lead around the door area here, and the reason for that is for door alignments, it's better to have metal, even if it is lead, in on the edges rather than any form of filler. As for the rest of it, I'll be using a fiberglass base filler, and just got one on order at the moment. It's just happens to be U-Pole, but there's a lot of other brands with a similar type filler, and that will provide the opportunity to actually seal this seam here, because it's not a complete seam weld. It'd be a good idea to actually seal that off, and the fiberglass type filler is ideal for that. So it'll provide a waterproof seal, as well as filling any indulations on the seam there. Let's say quite pleased with it, but I was tempted just to go and work on the other side, but what I want to do is to actually finish this off first, and the reason being, we've had a lot of rain here over the last few months. There's a lot of humidity in the air, and I really want to seal this off, so it doesn't have any prospect of surface rust appearing in around the seam here. So I'll certainly finish off this bottom end here with that filler. There's a need to fill other parts of the panel. There's still a slight, it's very hard to feel it, but you can see just the remnants of that undercoat there that I just ran a block sander over that, so it's a very slight depression. I've tried to get that out, and I just can't do that, but I'm not worried about that at the moment. It's quite okay. It's the welds I want to tighten up. So there will be a need to look at what I'm doing on the edge of the door here, but I'll leave that until all of these repairs are done. So I've really only got the other side to do like this, and then basically weld up all the rear end. All the repairs have been done, I just haven't welded everything on. When I've done all of that, then I'll start to work on the final gap fit of the doors. So there's work to do on the top end there. That will be done with lead, so it's a fair bit of leading to do. I was intending to leave all the leading till last, but as I said, I want to seal this up, so I'll get all my lead out of the drawer and start doing that there, but I won't go any further than just the areas that I need to seal up. Other than that, welding takes a long time, but once it's done, everything is incredibly tight. It's remarkable how things really tighten up. When you sound the panels, it's a lot of difference when you start to weld them together. I'm about to start the leading process. Just using some tinning butter, and I'll use that to tin all this area here, so I can then melt the lead onto it. What I've done initially is to clean this up with actually 36 grit. I've gone further than I need to go, mainly because you need to be prepared that you may need to go a little bit further than you originally intended as you're applying heat to the panel. So I've covered a fairly wide area with that. It's cleaned up. I've also run my wire brush through the welds to make sure there's no scale or anything left in there, and I'll just use a solvent to wipe the panel over before I start. Now, I'm not going to actually show the process that I'm going through. It's a standard tinning and lead loading process. There are lots of videos on the internet to show how it's done, and how it's done by professionals, not by someone like myself. I have done it before. It probably takes me a lot longer than someone that does it more often, but I'll get there. And as I say, initially I'll tin most of this area in here. Whether I put lead on it doesn't matter, at least it's tinned, and I won't have to worry about stopping and then cleaning the panel up if I need to go a bit further. So I'll be tinning all this area, as I said. I'll be putting lead in around here somewhere and up in here. I'll probably put a little bit of lead in the corner here to cover the weld there. Not sure how far I'll go down on the inside. I probably won't go right in. I'll keep it close to the edge, and I'll use, if I need to, I'll use any of the fiberglass filler I've got to just fill any welds internally there. Let's say it's going to take quite some time, but I'll start the process. When I've tinned this, I'll show you what the result of the tinning process is, and I'll also show what I need to do to clean the tinned area up before I proceed to the leading. Well, I started the lead filling process, but I would regard my effort as a bit of a failure. It took me an enormous amount of time just to do this area here, and the amount of heat I was putting in was starting to concern me, so I stopped. I've cleaned this up. I mean, it's obviously filled. I've roughly filed it back. Could probably go back a bit further, but with the amount of effort it took me to do that small piece, and considering I've got to do along here and up around here, I've decided to call it a stop, and I'm going to use the fiberglass filler. It's not going to make, probably not going to make any difference. This is a fully welded seam. It's not going to flex, and this one's unlikely to flex either because it's a flanged weld. So, and even if it does, the glass fibre type filler will allow some flex as well. So, I guess it's a case of, do you use the old school method or the modern method? I was hoping I could use the old school method, but I think if I continue trying to do it, I'm going to end up with more problems. I'm going to end up with warpage and the need to put a lot more lead in than I originally anticipated. So I'll stop. Be nice if it could have worked, but unfortunately it hasn't. So I'll be using fiberglass now to finish that off, or the fiberglass filler. That's the one I've got. There's a range of products similar to that, or similar type features. It can even bridge holes, so they say. Not that I've got holes, but it's ideal for filling welds. So that's what I intend to use. It's obviously going to be a little easier to use than the lead. It's just a case of mixing it and wiping it on. So anyway, it's unfortunate I couldn't continue, but as I say, I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up with more problems than it's worth, just to say that that's a leaded joint. I still intend to provide any lead up in the top there. It's only a small section, so I'm hoping to complete that, so that's still planned to do. But other than that, this edge, I've done a little bit more panel work on it. It's quite straight. Most of the problem is in the door, so I'll probably have to add a bead to the side of the door. But anyway, it was worth a try, but it's not worth the problems it's going to cause for me anyway. If you're experienced in doing it, I think why not? I'm not experienced in doing it, and even though I've done it before, and yes, I've done that, that's fine. But as I say, if I continue doing that, I'm going to end up putting more and more heat into it to get it to a proper finished surface. The repairs to the rear wing are now finished, on this side anyway. I've put some glass filler into the actual seam where the weld was. Same down here, not that it needed much, that's basically a full weld. The sill is all welded in, the end plate is welded in, so this side is finished back to there anyway. I haven't finished the welding on the end there because I've got to put this bottom panel in. I won't be doing that for the time being. I'll now go to the other side and repeat this, and at least now I know what I'm doing. Hopefully it'll go a little bit quicker, but who knows, it'll take as long as it takes.